What if I told you that a modern F-35 Lightning could be completely invisible to a radar system from just 30 years ago? Or that the difference between a World War II fighter and today's jets is like comparing a horse and buggy to a Ferrari? Today, we're diving deep into 80 years of fighter jet evolution, and I guarantee by the end of this video, you'll never look at Top Gun the same way again. I'm going to walk you through 6 distinct generations of fighter aircraft. First generation jet. It's the final years of World War II, and pilots are hearing a sound they've never experienced before. Not the familiar roar of propeller engines, but a high-pitched screaming whine cutting through the air. Welcome to the birth of the jet age and our first generation of fighter jets. Now, these first-generation jets were basically the awkward teenagers of military aviation. They were faster than anything that came before them, sure, but they were also incredibly unreliable. The story actually starts earlier than most people realize. The German Heinkel He-178 became the world's first jet aircraft to fly back in 1939, but it was purely experimental. It was the Messerschmitt Me 262 entering actual military service in 1944 that became the world's first operational jet fighter and really grabbed everyone's attention. On paper, it was revolutionary, reaching speeds that left Allied pilots scratching their heads, but here's the kicker. These early jets had engines that were unreliable and dangerous. These aircraft featured simple designs with straight wings and basic avionics. Their armament was pretty straightforward, machine guns and cannons, though some Me-262s even carried rockets for attacking bombers. The engines would flame out without warning, acceleration was painfully slow, and they completely lacked radar or any self-protection measures. If you needed to make a quick escape, well, you better hope you had a head start. But despite all these problems, they proved one thing beyond doubt. The future belonged to jet propulsion. The British Gloster Meteor was doing battle against German V-1 flying bombs, and over in the Soviet Union, they were already planning their own jet fighters that would dominate the skies in the next decade. Interestingly, many of these first-generation designs continued serving well into the modern era. Countries like North Korea still use aircraft derived from first-generation designs like the Shenyang J-5, which came from the MiG-17, for training and ground attack roles. By the 1960s, though, most were considered obsolete by major air forces. And that brings us perfectly to where things get really interesting. The Korean War and the birth of second-generation fighters. Now, if first-generation jets were awkward teenagers, second-generation fighters were like college students who finally figured out what they wanted to do with their lives. The Korean War from 1950 to 1953 became the world's first jet versus jet conflict, and it taught aircraft designers some harsh lessons. The Soviet MiG-15, with its swept wings and improved engines, was dominating American straight-wing jets in those famous MiG Alley dogfights. This forced the U.S. to fast-track the F-86 Sabre, and suddenly we had our first real glimpse of modern air combat. Second-generation fighters introduced something game-changing, sustained transonic and supersonic capabilities. These weren't jets that could break the sound barrier in a dive and hope for the best. Aircraft like the MiG-21, F-104 Starfighter, and F-106 Delta Dart could cruise at supersonic speeds all day long thanks to afterburners and swept wing designs, essentially rocket boosters attached to jet engines with aerodynamics that could handle the speed. But here's what made them truly revolutionary. They started carrying air-to-air radar and semi-active radar homing missiles, extending engagement ranges dramatically while improving accuracy. However, air-to-air combat was still primarily within visual range, and these aircraft were strategically divided into 2 main categories. You had interceptors focused purely on air superiority like the Soviet MiG-21 and Su-9 and the American F-106 Delta Dart. Now I want you to imagine being a pilot in 1960, suddenly able to detect and engage enemy aircraft from miles away using infrared-guided missiles with radar warning receivers, giving you situational awareness that previous generations could never dream of. The French Mirage III became renowned for its agility, the English Electric Lightning for pure performance, and that iconic MiG-21 became one of the most produced fighters in history. These aircraft transformed air combat from Wild West gunfights to sophisticated chess matches, playing pivotal roles in conflicts like the Vietnam War. What's fascinating is that some of these designs are still flying today. Pakistan still operates the Dassault Mirage III, while countries like India, North Korea, Syria, and Yemen continue using modernized versions of the MiG-21 with updated avionics and weapon systems. But as impressive as this sounds, we were just getting warmed up. Because in the 1960s, military planners realized something crucial. Why build separate aircraft for air-to-air combat and ground attack when you could build one super-capable machine that could do both? Enter third-generation fighters, and this is where things get seriously impressive. The star of this era was undoubtedly the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. Now, the Phantom was like the Swiss Army knife of fighter jets. It could shoot down enemy aircraft, bomb ground targets, and even conduct reconnaissance missions. During the Vietnam War, you'd see the same F-4 conducting air superiority missions in the morning and bombing supply routes in the afternoon. That's true multi-role versatility. Alongside the Phantom, aircraft like the nimble Northrop F-5 Freedom Fighter gained reputation for exceptional agility, while Soviet designs like the variable geometry MiG-23, the incredibly fast MiG-25, and the Su-17 represented the Eastern Bloc's technological advances. But the real game changer was beyond visual range combat, enabled by advanced fire control radars and the first tactical electronic warfare systems. Third-generation fighters like the F-4, MiG-23, and the French Mirage F-1 could detect, track, and engage targets they couldn't even see using pulse Doppler radar systems that provided look-down, shoot-down capabilities. Imagine being a pilot knowing that somewhere out there, an enemy aircraft might be preparing to launch a missile at you from 20 miles away. This completely transformed air combat tactics and training. These aircraft also introduced revolutionary propulsion and aerodynamic improvements. Turbofan engines provided better range and maneuverability compared to earlier turbojets. Some designs incorporated variable geometry wings or vectored thrust systems that further boosted performance. The integration of terrain warning systems and off-bore sight targeting meant pilots could conduct precision strikes and achieve air superiority without needing visual contact with their targets. The weapons revolution was equally impressive. Third-generation fighters carried laser-guided bombs and sophisticated air-to-surface missiles like the AGM-65 Maverick, along with an expanded array of air-to-air weapons. It's like comparing a sniper rifle to a shotgun. Both are deadly, but precision weapons gave pilots options that earlier generations simply couldn't match. European innovation wasn't left behind either, with designs like the Dassault Mirage F-1 and the revolutionary British Aerospace Harrier, which introduced vertical takeoff and landing capabilities that completely changed how and where fighters could operate. Today, many third-generation fighters continue serving through extensive modernization programs that upgrade their avionics and weapon systems. You'll still find F-4 Phantoms and Mirage F-1s in active service with countries like the Republic of Congo, Iran, Libya, Morocco, Turkey, and Greece, proving just how fundamentally sound these designs were. Now, as we move into the 1970s and what I consider the golden age of fighter design, we encounter fourth-generation fighters. And let me tell you, if you've ever wondered why aircraft from the 70s and 80s still look modern today, this is your answer. Fourth-generation fighters like the F-15 Eagle, F-16 Fighting Falcon, F/A-18 Hornet, and Soviet Su-27 introduced fly-by-wire technology. Now, this might sound boring, but it's actually revolutionary. These aircraft are so aerodynamically unstable that without computer assistance, they would be literally unflyable. It's like trying to balance a pencil on your finger. Possible, but it requires constant tiny adjustments. The computer makes thousands of these adjustments per second, allowing the aircraft to pull maneuvers that would rip apart earlier designs. But fly-by-wire was just one breakthrough among many. These fighters featured turbofan engines with thrust-to-weight ratios exceeding 1, meaning they could literally accelerate straight up. The introduction of composite materials revolutionized stealth technology, reducing radar cross-sections and dramatically improving survivability compared to earlier all-metal designs. The electronics revolution was equally impressive. Fourth-generation fighters integrated look-down Doppler fire control radars, electro-optical and infrared targeting sensors, laser and GPS-aided precision weapons, active air-to-air missiles that could guide themselves to targets, and advanced heads-up displays that projected critical flight information directly into the pilot's field of view. These systems worked together to significantly enhance situational awareness and operational capabilities in ways previous generations could not match. Fourth-generation fighters have seen extensive deployment in various military conflicts, proving their worth time and again. The F-15 and F-16 were absolutely pivotal during the Gulf War, showcasing their effectiveness in both air superiority and ground attack roles. The Soviet Su-27 has been active in multiple regional conflicts, demonstrating its capabilities in diverse operational environments. What's remarkable is that the F-15 Eagle has never lost an air-to-air combat engagement. Never. That's over 40 years of combat operations with a perfect record. The F-16 has been produced in more numbers than any other modern fighter, serving with over 25 air forces worldwide. These aren't just statistics. They represent a level of capability and reliability that previous generations could only dream of. But here's where the story gets really interesting and why I need you to pay close attention to this next part. By the late 1980s, the Cold War was ending. Defense budgets were shrinking, but threats weren't disappearing. So instead of developing entirely new aircraft, designers asked a crucial question. How do we make our already excellent fourth-generation fighters even better without breaking the bank? The answer was fourth-and-a-half-generation fighters, and they represent some of the most capable aircraft flying today. Think of the Boeing FA-18F Super Hornet, the Eurofighter Typhoon, or the Dassault Rafale. These aircraft took everything great about fourth-generation design and added cutting-edge electronics, improved stealth features, and weapons systems that seem almost science fiction. The key innovation here was AESA radar, Active Electronically Scanned Array. Now, traditional radar dishes physically rotate to scan the sky, but AESA systems can electronically steer their beams instantly in any direction, while providing improved situational awareness and even limited airborne early warning and control functions. It's like having superhuman peripheral vision. You can track multiple targets simultaneously while jamming enemy communications and conducting electronic warfare, all at the same time. But AESA was just one advancement among many. These fighters achieved super maneuverability through thrust vectoring controlled engines and advanced aerodynamics that enhanced aerial performance beyond anything seen before. Their weapons capability expanded dramatically with increased carriage capacity and extended range for advanced munitions like precision-guided bombs and next-generation air-to-air missiles. They also integrated infrared search and track systems that provided additional sensor capability without compromising their enhanced stealth designs. The fourth-and-a-half-generation fighters have seen extensive use in various military operations, proving their multi-role capabilities repeatedly. The Eurofighter Typhoon and Dassault Rafale have participated in numerous NATO operations, showcasing their versatility. The Boeing FA-18F Super Hornet serves as the backbone of U.S. naval aviation, excelling in both air-to-air and air-to-ground missions with remarkable effectiveness. In recent years, these aircraft have continued evolving with newer technologies, focusing heavily on improving network-centric capabilities, sensor fusion systems that process multiple data streams simultaneously, and enhanced combat management systems that coordinate complex operations automatically. They represent the perfect bridge between the proven reliability of fourth-generation design and the revolutionary capabilities we're about to discuss. But even as these fourth-and-a-half-generation fighters were entering service, military planners were already working on something that would make everything we've discussed so far look primitive by comparison. And that brings us to fifth-generation fighters, the aircraft that are redefining what air superiority even means. When the F-22 Raptor first took flight, it didn't just represent an incremental improvement. It was a quantum leap that marked a significant generational change in aircraft design. As of 2024, fifth-generation fighters demonstrate unprecedented improvements in both lethality and survivability that make everything we've discussed so far seem primitive by comparison. Imagine an aircraft with inherent stealth that minimizes its radar cross-section through internal weapon bays and low probability of intercept radar systems, appearing no larger than a marble on enemy radar screens. So fast that it can achieve supercruise sustaining supersonic flight without afterburners, improving both range and fuel efficiency dramatically. So aware of its surroundings through advanced avionics integration that processes information from multispectral sensors, giving the pilot a comprehensive real-time view of the entire battlefield while allowing engagement without extensive maneuvering. The F-22 Raptor entered service with the United States Air Force in December 2005, followed by the F-35 Lightning II, which joined the United States Marine Corps in July 2015. Other nations haven't stood still either. China's Chengdu J-20 became operational with the People's Liberation Army Air Force in March 2017, while Russia's Su-57 entered service with the Russian Air Force in December 2020. But here's what really sets fifth-generation fighters apart. They're not just individual aircraft, they're nodes in a network. The F-35's sensor fusion system processes information from dozens of sensors simultaneously, creating a real-time picture of the battle space that gets shared with friendly forces automatically through network-centric capabilities that enable seamless information sharing and command control and communications across all platforms in the battle space. An F-35 can detect a target, share that information with ground forces, naval vessels, and other aircraft instantly, and coordinate attacks without the enemy ever knowing they've been detected. It's less like traditional dogfighting and more like playing a real-time strategy game where you can see the entire map while your opponent is flying blind. Real-world usage has highlighted their remarkable capabilities in various military operations. The F-22 consistently maintains air superiority in any environment it operates in, while the F-35 demonstrates exceptional multi-role capabilities during NATO exercises. As of early 2023, these fighters are undergoing continuous updates to improve their capabilities, ensuring they remain competitive against rapidly evolving threats worldwide. Now, you might be thinking we've reached the pinnacle of fighter design, but you'd be wrong. Even as fifth-generation fighters are still being delivered to air forces around the world, designers are already working on sixth-generation concepts that surpass everything currently in operation and sound like pure science fiction. Countries like the United States, Russia, and China are all developing national sixth-generation programs, while collaborative multinational efforts are taking shape as well. Japan, Italy, and the United Kingdom are working together on the Global Combat Air Program, while France, Germany, and Spain are developing the Future Combat Air System. These represent some of the most ambitious military aviation projects ever undertaken. Imagine aircraft that can achieve hypersonic speeds. That's over 5 times the speed of sound, or Mach 5, making them nearly impossible to intercept. Picture fighters equipped with dual-mode engines that can vary their thrust settings for completely different mission profiles, from efficient cruising to maximum performance combat. Think about adaptive shapes with aerodynamic profiles that physically change during flight to optimize performance for different phases of the mission. But perhaps most revolutionary is the concept of manned and unmanned operations capability. These aircraft will be designed to operate with pilots when human judgment is crucial, or autonomously when reaction times need to be faster than any human could achieve. The advanced digital capabilities being developed incorporate high-capacity networking systems, artificial intelligence for data fusion, and even cyber warfare capabilities that can attack enemy systems directly. Enhanced stealth designs will push radar invisibility to new levels, while directed energy weapons, essentially laser systems, could provide unlimited ammunition traveling at the speed of light. Some concepts even include swarms of unmanned aircraft that operate in perfect coordination with manned fighters, creating an entirely new dimension of air combat. Currently, these sixth-generation capabilities remain largely theoretical, but the first aircraft incorporating these technologies are expected to enter service in the 2030s. The evolution of sixth-generation aircraft represents a major leap forward in military aviation, designed specifically to maintain strategic advantages against rapidly emerging threats that current systems simply can't address. So there you have it. 80 years of fighter jet evolution, from the unreliable but revolutionary Me-262 to hypersonic, shape-shifting, AI-powered aircraft that exist only in computer simulations today.